Welcome everyone to episode 158 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteloresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is the awesome Susan Forrest. I didn't know Susan very well. Like we've gone to the same info meetings and stuff like that, and we've never really had a chance to talk. And this was a great opportunity for me to get to know her a little better. She's quite the adventurer. I think that was a really cool surprise from my end. Meeting her, actually, it was just how much she's doing right now is just incredible. And I really am proud of this conversation. Since we last talked, I did Craig DeLuise and Chris Mars' party. Launched my book officially there. I've confirmed myself for my next live podcast, which will be June 24th. At Eau Claire Market. More details will be coming soon. I have a taste of local authors. May 10th, I will be reading a little bit from The Wandering God, but also from The Cloud Diver. I'm going to bring a little preview of that coming up. I'm also going to be doing Creative Inc. Burnaby, BC, May 18th, 19th, 20th. As you can see, my schedule is really picking up. When Words Collide, I'll be doing that in August. Who knows what I'm doing in July? At this moment in time, I don't know yet, but that will probably fill up too. So, as you can see, things just keep on keeping on. And I love it. Every second of it. All right. Let's go to my interview with Susan Forrest. We're just going to start from the incriminating. What podcast do you like that aren't mine?
I love to listen to Quirks and Quarks and White Coat Black Art and Spark, all on CBC Radio, Ideas on CBC Radio. And I've come to another one just recently, On Drugs.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the 7th series that I'm doing with Laksa Media Groups is the series title is Addicted to Heaven.
Okay.
And so I'm it's part of my research, and it's so easy to just get on the treadmill at the gym and listen to podcasts, right?
It's interesting. Well, so my dad's a herbalist, so I grew up on the naturopathic side of things. So I have a very different take on a lot of illnesses just based on that.
Yeah.
I'm, to be very honest with you, scared with a lot of the medicines that are recommended today.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I was a kid, they were told us to say no to drugs.
Right.
And now these very drugs they told us to say no to are now being sold over the counter. It's an interesting, 20-year evolution.
This particular podcast is in season 2 now. The guy is very open-minded. The guy does the research and does the interviews, and he's not, dictating to people.
No,
right?
No, and it's best you don't.
But some of the episodes have been on things like race and drugs, sex and drugs, fun and drugs, and another really interesting one on World War II and drugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because they're. Medicinally speaking, I know World War I, like one of the big things that was used was comfrey. Now most people don't know what comfrey is. It's a herb. It's an herb, yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, during World War I, you place depending on where you were, you didn't have medical supplies on a regular basis. Comfrey cuts your healing time in half.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There is a side effect to it. Yeah. But let's say you just broke your arm.
Yeah.
If you wrapped your arm in like comfrey and you ate it, it would cut your healing time in half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it would cut your healing time in half.
Yeah.
Now, there is a side effect to it. It does some stuff to your liver, so you have to, cycle it. So if you're going to go, if you cycle it, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just, there's a lot of neat, stuff like that happened during World War I. And World War II, I mean, submarines who would have liquid courage after a battle. I mean, there's all kinds of...
Well, one of the things they were talking about was how, the French troops would be given a shot of rum.
Yeah.
Right? And the German troops would be given a shot of speed.
Yes.
Yeah, who wins?
That's it.
The rum slows you down, right?
Yeah. Well, no, rum generally slows you down. It would depend on the circumstances. Like in the old, because there's historically, you look at berserkers, they would drink bloodlust, they would go in there and they would just charge, and then there's no fear.
They had no fear.
You had no fear. That's great if it's one-on-one, because that guy is going to almost always win against, unless this guy's adrenaline is really through the roof.
Yeah.
But let's say you're in like a fortified position, like say Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can be on speed all you want. It just means I get to pick you
You're
up.
going to get shot down. Except, well, okay, here's an example.
Yeah.
One of the early battles when Hitler was heading west into Belgium, there was a town that was exactly like you described. It was a fortified town on top of a hill.
Yeah.
And these German soldiers came running up the hill, and the defenders got so freaked out of what's these guys doing?
Panicked.
They panicked.
Yeah. And that's it. That's battle. Like any kind of like mental battle, it always comes down. If you panic, feeling fear is good, is healthy. But when it rules you, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. It doesn't matter what the battlefield is. It's like you're done and you're over. So yeah.
So anyway, very, very interesting. Like doing research is absolutely a ton of fun. A novel that I'm going to be working on this fall. I don't know if you're aware, but I was accepted into a writer's residency in Ireland.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I've been having this book rattle around on the back of my brain for quite a while, which is a World War II fantasy.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, I mean, working in the old world, right, and being surrounded by that, architecture and, that sort of thing would be really cool. Now, I know that Ireland was neutral during World War II, but I think the setting is going to be very inspirational.
The setting's cool, and if you get a chance to travel at all, I mean, you can definitely go down to some of the sites.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do, is to get over to Salisbury Plain, which is where the Canadians were stationed during World War II.
Okay.
And I've been to Dieppe already, but I want to get back there just to wander the streets. I think I was there for like 2 hours one time. So, because being a World War II story and being that I'm Canadian, I wanted to have a Canadian connection. So it's actually set up as a mystery, where a woman is trying to find her husband and she's going to follow his path, and so I wanted to go to those places. I'd like to go to those places.
During World War II.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be really cool. Actually, that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're a big traveler, aren't you?
Oh, I love to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long? How long have you been traveling for? Like your whole life, or is this something that came in your?
It's something I've been interested in my whole life, but circumstances, family, what have you, work has certainly kept me close to home until about 7 years ago. My husband, not even that long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. My husband and I managed to get some opportunities to travel, but one of the coolest ones was when I met him. He had 5 motorcycles. And I don't know how many motorcycles he has now. We've kind of lost track. But
I'm a little jealous. It's okay though.
But anyway, so we took one of his motorcycles and we actually shipped it over to Europe, and we did 3.5 months on the motorcycle.
That's awesome.
It was, because I think you see a whole different aspect than you see if you're just on the train or airplanes.
Well, yeah, when you're actually on the road, you actually get to, you see how a place actually works. Like for me, I grew up moving around all the time. And so we would always go by truck, or like, when I was like 7, my dad used to work for a transport truck. So you actually take me in, I would actually go with him to various ships. I'd go, I see Chicago, Detroit.
Oh,
it's all,
really?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I did that at like 7. It was actually really, really cool. So I had my horizons broadened at a very young age in terms of traveling. At 8 years old, if I could read a map and I could literally get in and out of any city, I knew how to do that. And so for me, I love that. I don't get to do it as much right this minute in my life where I get to travel. I mean, I do still travel sometimes, but it's now I fly, and I don't knock flying, but it's not the same experience. You literally go from one place to another. There's no culture. There's no. You're not really seeing, like you can say like you've been to Florida.
Yeah.
Right. If you by flying from here to say Orlando, now you might go out and you might see Orlando a little bit, you know it well, but you don't really know the place unless you're there for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you're there for like a trip, so let's say I lived in Phoenix, but let's say I go to a comic convention in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at my hotel room. I'm going to be at the convention center, and that's it.
I know.
Right?
You don't see anything.
You see nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm traveling, I'm actually traveling, I'm taking a bus. Train to some degrees, it's closer than a plane is, but it still has that different. You distance yourself from how everybody else goes.
Yes.
I think that's the big difference. So when you do that, you don't get that opportunity to really take in
well,
what a place
when
is.
you say go to a place, what do you mean by go to a place, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, one of the things we got to do just this spring was my husband and I were going on a World War I, World War II tour because it was the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge. My grandfather fought on Vimy Ridge. Interesting story. His father was also fighting in the area, not on Vimy Ridge, and they met behind the lines. Neither one of them knew the other had signed up.
Wow.
Yeah, so some really cool stories. And we were going for that reason. But I said, as long as we're going, last trip we didn't get to Morocco. I'd really like to get to Morocco. So we signed up for a tour. And we had a wonderful time. It was an excellent tour, but I felt like there was a bubble around us the entire time. So
Yes.
we saw lots of stuff, but we didn't really mingle with
local
people, right?
Well, it's one thing that, like, when you do a tour. When you do a tour story, there's an official thing, and that's great, especially if you're only going to be there like for a day or two.
Yeah.
That can be a lot of fun. But if you really want to see a place and know the place, you have to kind of go on your own. You have to. You have to learn all the dirty swear words so that you go get like.
Right.
No, it's true. Like when I travel, I can swear in 7 languages. I can speak 3, but I can swear in 7. The reason being is that when you travel and you meet people, you try to find. There are things that are universal, like completely universal, and that is one of those things, right? I got to tell you the story of how how Val taught me how to swear in sign language.
In sign language. Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? But the thing is, everybody wants to play. Like but that's something that everywhere I've been, every person I've met, on some level they want to play. They want to have fun.
Sure.
So you find wherever that common ground is, and you build from there, and that's when you really form good relationships with people, right? And that you don't get to do on tour. You get to see a place, you get to spend money.
Oh yeah.
Yes, right,
right, sure.
right. But you don't get to really enjoy you don't know that really good gourmet place on that corner store. You don't get to meet these people that just work here all the time. They're going to say, "Who the hell are you?" Because that's a big part of traveling is you get to see
is meeting the people.
Yeah, that's it. Meeting the people, like the real people, not when you're on tour. As you say, there's a bubble there.
Yeah.
By design, there's a bubble there. Now, if you really want to experience a place, don't take the tours, right? Go in. You sometimes get some unexpected discoveries. Sometimes going to places. I don't like LA personally.
No.
My LA experience though is not most people's experience. So my experience in LA is I've had this opportunity when I moved to Phoenix that I go through Denver or LA. I thought LA would be a much cooler spot. I'd see it. I thought foolishly, and I never will do this again, is I thought I'd take a Greyhound from LA to Phoenix.
Yeah.
So my cab is more expensive than my flight or my bus trip. Awesome, right?
Oh.
Right? 1, 2. I get there. And my cab is like, okay, listen, this is not like you can look around and you're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, this isn't a safe place. Don't let anyone talking to getting a ride. You probably shouldn't leave the station.
Yeah.
Right? And that's so I'm literally in the station.
Like,
No, well, my family's from Detroit, so I'm not that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that. But I'm like, I can't go anywhere because either my stuff will get stolen, I'll get beaten up, or something, right? But that's a risk you take when you travel. Like when you actually do it right. Like you do take that risk, and then you can go to somewhere like. We went to Alert Bay. My father and I went for my trip, but we didn't take a tour. We went north of Nanaimo to Alert Bay.
Yeah.
We met this really cool native tribe on the way, and we did like my first time I ever did a sweat lodge, and it was a really cool experience.
Awesome. Alert is a long way.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's timeless. I wasn't ready for that.
Oh.
No. I'm. Even now, I honestly think I'm a little too young for that place.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not.
What an opportunity, though.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It was,
stay with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you get to go out, you get to travel. I say this in my current book. When you start out in life, you're afraid to be small.
Yeah.
The farther along you go in life, you actually realize that you're even smaller than you could possibly imagine. But the best part is, if you're really, really wise about this, you recognize that that's not inherently a good thing. Because it's not that you're smaller than you are, you just realize how much farther you still have to go. And when you go through, and then you realize that you can still grow, and there's always room for growth, and that actually comforts me, because that means that
it's liberating.
Oh, absolutely. It opens the fact that I am not the biggest thing out there, and that's great. And but also, there's so much more to see and do and discover. And I know that as long as I'm alive, there's going to be a lot of things I don't see and do and discover. And that's a good thing too, because not everything in this life's for me. What's in this life for me, I just hope that whatever I keep doing and whatever I keep seeing and discovering, I become a bigger person, even though I will seem even smaller as I do that.
Right.
Yeah. That's the paradox. When you actually become a bigger person, you actually become smaller.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a little paradox I realized when I traveled. I don't know if you've had that experience yet yourself, but when it does come,
I think through life generally, for sure. Yeah. I know you're talking about places that could be more sketchy to go to.
Some of them.
My husband and I took a month, this was a few years ago, to go to Brazil.
Okay.
My daughter-in-law is from Brazil, and she said, my dad has heart problems, we're never going to meet unless you go to Brazil. So it was never on my list of places to go, but I am so glad we went, because we spent about a third of the time with her family, and her father was a diplomat. He traveled all over the world. But they have a beach house, and they let us stay in the beach house. So that was really cool. We rented a car, went back and forth. This beach house was in a gated community. During the day, when they were home, they still locked the doors. And like everybody we talked to, that was the Government of Canada website, the travel agents, people on airplanes, didn't matter who you talked to, everybody said, it's really dangerous here. They said, people are going to mug you and steal all your stuff, right? But we never had a single issue.
Yeah.
Actually, at one point, we had parked our car, and this guy came along and said, I'll take care of your car for you. Pay me some money. And our daughter-in-law, who's very proud of her country, she said, you better pay him. So we paid him, right? But we never got sick. We never missed a plane. We never got lost anything major. It was a wonderful trip. But I think part of it is educating yourself a little bit ahead of time so that you've got a bit of an idea of... And also just traveling with some smarts. Like we saw this guy in a train station. I don't know where he was from, but I don't think he was local. He had cameras all around his neck, and he had this big wallet, and he was counting money, right? And I'm thinking, no, you don't do that. Right? And the other thing we did was, like, when we went to Salvador, we didn't go to the favelas, right? We went to the tourist area, and we stayed in the tourist area, and we enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
So certain things are just common sense. Right?
I mean, like I said, you just again, it's about recognizing where you're going to, and that's part of the. Again, that's part of the experience.
But other places, like this one hotel we stayed in, I don't know, we were on the 11th floor. And they had this big rock concert across the street in the park. We could hear it on the 11th floor, and we kept thinking, it'll quit after a while. It went literally all night long. And so the next morning we went out, we wandered around. This was an amazing. It was actually a bunch of concerts and a bunch of booths, and they were selling trinkets, and they were having dancing, and it was just really cool. We didn't know it was there, but there it was.
Yeah. You should be writing more travel stories. I'm not kidding. No, you've had some really cool experiences, and travel sells. I mean, I'm not saying strictly on a sales point.
Did you ever read 419 by Will Ferguson?
I have not read that one yet.
So he's a travel writer. Well, he's a Bulgarian too, right? And I believe he's written a different book about travel to Nigeria, but 419 is a novel. But it takes place about 50% in Calgary and 50% in Nigeria. Excellent novel.
I'll have to check it out.
I mean, it just oozes with authenticity because clearly he's been there and he knows, right?
Well, I find like the best stories usually have some. It took me a long time to figure this out. because when you start writing, it's very cerebral at first. So you're in your head a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to recognize that you have to actually let yourself into your book, and that's a really, really, really difficult step.
Oh, it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah. It's true though. It's the hardest part, I think. I would say I was a competent writer before that. I took that step.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend I'm great now. I'm still working on it.
As you say, we all have room to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm a lot better because what I recognize now, what I didn't recognize before, was the idea of a story. Yeah, here, exactly. Yeah. But the idea of the story isn't what connects people to the story. Like seriously, my next novel, I have a unicorn that literally talks out of its ass with wingdings. Okay, right? Yeah. But what the actual story is all about is something everybody can relate to. It's that moment in your life where you think you have all your answers and everything's just taken from you. And there's that moment in your life where you're not sure who you are, you're not sure where you're going, you're not sure. Yeah. We all go through that in some form or another, and that's a really real. That's real because I've been through it myself, right? So I know there will be a certain authenticity in that book, even if I have a zombie monster and a unicorn fire. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff actually matters. The core of your story has to come from the heart. If it doesn't,
there's no story.
No good story anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but it's interesting that you bring that up because my daughter, who is an artist, she just graduated from Alberta College of Art and Design. In her last year, she had a professor that she absolutely hated, and everybody else in the class did too, according to her. But I think he pushed her and probably the rest of them, and her art really transformed in the course of that year. And what he did, because nothing was ever good enough, and that's why she was frustrated. And he said, you have to go into yourself. You're doing too much research. You're using too much of your brain. You need to go into your experiences and what's important to you. Right?
I have a friend who's a massage therapist, and she would cope with life by going back to school. All the time, all the time.
Yeah, it's safe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's part of it. But the other part of it, I told her at one point, it's like, look, there is nothing up here anymore. You really need to every once in a while, as a refresher. Yeah. Sure, great. That's it. You don't go anymore. Right. Because it's not here that matters. It's hard. And it's true. And it doesn't matter whether it's writing or art or sports or whatever. It's about being true to you, whatever that is. And if you can't do that, you'll never be as good as you can be, even if you have immense talent, right? Your limitation will be your heart.
There's a wonderful quote in Brave New World. I can't remember the name of the character. He's a minor character, but he's an alpha. He's an alpha. He's really brilliant.
Yes.
He's got everything. And he has a talent for writing. And he has this line in the book. He says, I think I could really write an important book, but I just don't know what to write about. Because, of course, in that society, everyth's given to him, right? He has no struggle.
Yeah, it's not just struggle. It's having just a clear purpose. So I have a formula for sales. You want to hear my formula for sales?
Okay.
Who are you? What do you offer? Why should I care? That's it.
That's good.
That's the formula. It's really simple. If you have a clear idea of who you are, you'll know what you want. You know where you're going. You'll know all those things. Yeah. So you'll know what's relevant to you. Yeah. And that's also how you figure out who your audience is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
That's something I think that doesn't happen right away with a lot of people.
It takes a lot of self-analysis.
Not just self-analysis, just experience too.
Yeah.
It takes experience as well. You have to get your ass kicked a little bit. I mean, that's the honest truth. I mean, if you don't, you'll never know it. A lot of people I know fear failure. It's actually the best teacher you can possibly find. Because even if the answer, writing is the rejection business. That's what it is. It totally is. It's about, you hear no's. Well, a lot of authors, the reason why a lot of authors cook is because no is always the first response. But what a lot of writers forget, it's not the final response. It never is. Yeah. It's no right now. Make me say yes. Right? Make me say yes. So I'll pitch an idea, and this is where I'm at. I'm actually pretty solid on terms of pitches, right? It's now getting that execution just right, and that's again just getting better, and also just the simple fact that sometimes with rejection, it's not necessarily that your work's bad. It's just that work, whatever that is, doesn't fit the like whatever parameters.
It's not making that connection to that reader.
Yeah, or not making that, or it's not making that connection to that editor because the editor has a different idea for that collection. Like maybe like for example, you wrote a very hilarious piece, but the editor's like, I don't want a lot of haha here. This is maybe too funny. It's good, right? It's finding the right fit sometimes too.
Yeah,
but it varies. So you edit and you write.
Yes.
What do you prefer, or do you have a preference?
It depends on the day. When I'm writing, I prefer writing. When I'm editing, no. My first passion is the writing because I have stories that I want to tell, and I love telling them. But some people love that first draft, and they say, I don't really want to go back and look at it again. I really do love going back because sometimes I find that first draft is much more difficult, and then I go back and I say, I can make this better.
Yes.
And I do something and I make it better. And I think I have that same feeling when I'm doing editing, but the trap with editing is that it can be creatively fulfilling.
Yes.
And so actually I'm regularly turning work away as an editor because I have made a vow with myself. I'm only going to do like 2 editing projects a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if I don't do that, I'm not going to get my writing done.
No, I know, and I get that. Yeah. Because you seem like someone, and this is just from the outside looking in, right? That probably didn't ask for editing, but kind of got thrust into it and is good at it. I see, like when I looked you up, I was like, I see a lot of editing credits. I see writing credits too, but right now it's just like your edits stand out more than your writing does.
Laksa Media Groups is the publisher that did Strangers Among Us, which I edited. Along with, of course, Lucas K. Law.
Yes.
And we got the Aurora Award, so I was pretty excited about that.
High five?
Thank you.
Yes. I see I'm very serious on my podcast. But no, congrats. In all seriousness. No, it just like that to me just seems to be like it's an interesting dichotomy. Like I realize like with me, because I've been doing this now for a while, more people know me for this than writing. Now I'm okay with that. Like strictly on an ego point of view, hey, that's cool. People know I have a big mouth, but it's the same thing. Like you have to really, really choose to balance your time.
Exactly.
Right, and then that's the real enemy. I've come to the point now where I am old enough that I hate having my time wasted.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I hate it. I actually pretty much I'm almost like at one strike and you're out with people now. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it's just I really, really despise it. Because one thing I recognized a long time ago was time only goes forward. It doesn't go back. If once that moment's gone, I can't get it. I can't get it again.
Yep, that's true.
Right, and if that's the case, then time is the only real money I have, and I'm going to be very frugal with it. I'm going to do the things I want to do with it, or why bother?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I get the feeling you're kind of there too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But getting back to the editing. I've really, really enjoyed Strangers Among Us because, for one reason, we got these amazing stories in, but there's a whole range of them. I think there was one that I don't think either Lucas or I changed a single comma in the entire story, right?
Wow.
And others that we worked, more closely with the writer to try and bring out the story that they had. We were working with one author, big name author, and I was a little nervous about this, and he had a novel that was due, and so we kind of didn't get his story until a little bit late in the process, and when we got it, I was thinking, there's a couple of major plot holes in this, and a couple of other little things too. And I was a little nervous about this, but I wrote up my notes, and I said, what about this and this and this? Sent it off to him, got it back like a week later, And not only had he addressed every issue that I had asked him to, he'd gone beyond that, and it was just a stunning story. And I thought, I mean, what you're told all the time really proved to be true, is that the bigger the name, the more professional they are.
Not always, but yeah. Not always, but yes.
Definitely in some instances. But the other interesting thing was that when we came back to, when I met him again in person, I don't know, a few months later or something, he said, thank you for those edits. I really think they improved my story. And like, it was, you know, it was a real cooperative.
Well, the thing is, as a writer, you don't... Finding a good reading group is hard because a lot of your like friends will tell you it's good or it's nice. I don't get better with good or nice, right? It doesn't help.
Yeah.
So if someone's really is going to take the time and go, okay, this is what really needs to be done with your book or your story or whatever the case may be, I like it personally because I know I have holes in my game and I want to do what I can to get better because that's the whole point. Is my next story going to be better than the last story I told?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Right. So a professional person, like no matter how big you are as a writer, creator, whatever, you're not perfect, and you know, sometimes it's still just like, even if the name is big, it's still terrible. But even then, big name writers get rejected every year, all the time. It's, the no's are nicer when you're more well known, but there's still no, right? So I mean, you have to always at some point maintain I would say detachment is maybe not quite the right word. You have to have a willingness to learn always, and then that never can change. Because if that does change, then you're done. Like whether you realize it or not, you're done. And then at that point, somebody younger, somebody hungrier, somebody smarter will come along and pass you by, and that's just how it works. So what's next for you? What comes out? What is it? A written project? Is it an edited project? What's next?
Well, I'm just absolutely super excited about this series that I sold to Laksa Media. It's called Addicted to Heaven. I've got books 1 and book 2 complete. Book 1 has been submitted. Book 2 goes in next month. I've got some beta readers looking at it, and it's a 7-book series, as I said, and all up to book 6 have at least some of the writing done. So, and we're looking at it probably one a year, so that's going to be a doable kind of a schedule. Which I'm absolutely loving. It's a world and it's characters, and you know, working with Lucas, it's really, I think, again, helped to bring out qualities in the story that give it a deeper resonance. It's pretty much a fantasy adventure. But in working with him, we're plumbing the deeper, more resonant themes.
I going back to something I said earlier. Sometimes, like I said, the best stories come from here, right?
Yes.
Right. And like I said, the ideas don't matter. Like in terms, and I'm not belittling any of your concepts. It's just like it just. The important thing is what's the heart. If you have a good heartbeat of your story, right? It'll carry out in no matter what the genre, right? And whether it's something like Stephen King's Dark Tower, which is a series I really dig, or whether it's something like Les Miserables. There's there's some very true human themes throughout both.
Yes.
And that's why those stories still today work. Right?
Well, and sometimes you have to follow the story a little bit. I know in book 2, the one that is this close to being finished, I really wanted it to have something to do with the fun and the highs and the way you get sucked into an addictive situation, right? No, it's about enabling. It's about 2 sisters, one who is trying to help the other and doing everything wrong. And I'm sorry, but that's the book. There we are.
There we are, right? So
that's one project, and then second project I started to mention was this World War II fantasy. It's structured as a mystery because the protagonist is the non-magical character. She's married to a magical character, and he's been keeping this secret from her all his life. But my villain is William Lyon Mackenzie King's fictional aide, who sees World War II as an opportunity to put Canada on the world stage. And what better way to do it than with a spy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he kidnaps this fellow with the magical ability to be able to see and hear without being seen and heard.
I gotta ask this. I cannot
All
help
right,
myself.
okay.
Is William Lyon Mackenzie King a wizard?
No, he's not.
You should make him a wizard.
All right.
You know, I'm
well,
saying.
I know there's all sorts of resonances in his life.
Oh
too.
no! It would fit him so well because he was our longest reigning prime minister.
Yes.
Talked to a crystal ball his whole life.
Yeah.
It would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. This is me. That's just me. If I were to do it,
Yeah.
I would have him in the
There
crystal.
could be 2 books on this theme. You write one, I'll write one.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I got a lot on my plate this year, so we'll see. No, I'm just saying because that like William Lyon Mackenzie King is a character unto himself.
Oh yeah.
I mean.
And that's one of the fun things that I'm doing right now because I won't. I've got it basically plotted out, but I won't really start working on it until the fall.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of research. For instance, I'm reading Rise and Fall of the Third Reich because I think it's important to get the other side of things too, right?
Well, he's speaking of other interesting characters. I look back at World War II a lot. Like a lot of people paint him as a bad guy, and don't get me wrong, he did some terrible things. But if you look at the situation that he was presented with, I don't know, man. I'm again not sympathizing with everything he did, but I
well,
understand.
If you're going to write in a balanced way, you have to try and get a sense of where were they coming from and why, right?
Well, and for them, it's because they were poor and abandoned. When we come right down to it,
the Versailles Treaty.
Yeah. When you come right down to it, that's what did it. They were abandoned. They went through more financial turmoil than anybody or anywhere else because they went through
inflation.
Inflation came first, then they went through the depression too, like everybody else did.
Yeah.
So they got broken both ways, and they were desperate and they were looking for answers. So they turned to somebody that said they'd fix the problems.
Yeah. And in actual fact, I mean, he did a ton of stuff to get their economy going.
Absolutely, he strengthened the middle class, which is the key to was the key to their whole rise. And then when they needed resources, they did what every other empire does.
Expand.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. And then again, doesn't necessarily mean what he did was right, but it's like, well, what would a lot of other people do in that situation, right? Maybe not.
And then I think the other thing that is important to remember is if you're going to go back, what is that, 60, 70 years? Actually, if you're going back to the 30s and the roots and the 20s and World War I as part of the roots,
80s, 90s, 100 years.
You're going back that far. One of the things you have to remember, I think, is how close you were to some of the previous conflicts. Like World War I was only 100 years after Napoleon.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and the Civil War. That's where trench warfare was, really
big.
Yeah, big.
Yeah.
And all of these other influences that, from our more distant perspective, I think, you look at something and say, well, duh, why don't you do this? But some of these things are just like brand new. Right?
Yeah, and today it's actually really frightening because if we ever did fight in a world war today, nobody knows what that would look like. Like, not anymore. I mean, Einstein said it best. I don't know the weapons of World War III, but I do know the weapons of World War IV. And what he said was sticks and stones, and he was right.
Right. Yes. Good point.
Yeah, because no one, like at this point, we have had over 100 years. Our technology has gotten bigger and smaller in ways that a lot of people would not believe.
Yeah.
And
the future is today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm talking to you on the tricorder. Really, no joke.
That's right.
Yeah, right, no joke. That's the people that we live there.
Yeah.
So, Miss Susan, I think we have an interview.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is, we've mentioned what's coming up next.
Yes.
How can people find you?
speculative-fiction.ca. That's my website, and Susan Forrest, Facebook, Susan J. Forrest on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty findable, I think.
Pretty findable.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries. 1 second here. And that was Susan Forrest. Strangers Among Us is a really cool anthology. You should check it out. And some of the other stuff she's done. I'm really curious about her novels coming up in 2019. I'm going to definitely be taking a look at them. Her accomplishments speak for themselves. It was a thrill to have her. Susan, you're welcome back anytime you want. All right? And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. Now, you can support this podcast a number of different ways. You can subscribe to it either through Podomatic or iTunes. I am working very hard now and diligently on trying to get this podcast on Spotify and Stitcher. I hope to have some good news soon. Cross your fingers. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Joshua Penteloresco. There are a lot of past interviews on there. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, The Wandering God, all available at mirrorworldpublishing.com. You can definitely take a look at them. I hope to have some more cool book stuff coming up real soon as well. Beyond that, thank you for listening. Whatever you do, dream with your eyes wide open. Good things come true. They always happen when you least expect them. All right. See you next time.
Josh.